Welcome to Whitman Partners Road Warriors Recognition Award Series. We're talking to interim directors of surgical services about their unique experiences leading departments on a temporary basis. Today we have Sheila Grumbach. Welcome. And she is the interim perioperative director for Highland Hospital, which is part of the Alameda Health System. We're so happy to have you here today, and we're going to get right into the questions. So my first question for you is, how do you distinguish yourself in an interview for an interim assignment to help you win the job?
I think the biggest thing that an interim leader can bring is their expertise. Just demonstrating the vastness with your resume, but speaking to the accomplishments and the contributions that you've had from assignment to assignment. And once you find out what their focus is and what they're looking at, is speak to those experiences in your resume that help support what they're hoping to accomplish, their goals, to support their mission and vision.
And what questions do you always ask before you make the final decision to accept an assignment? Like, what do you have to know before you say yes?
Well, during the interview, I really want to know what their challenges are. And in my experience, I've been doing this since 2015. And in my experience, the CNO has been extremely transparent about what they hope you to do, what your focus is, because most of us know that that's their primary focus. But you have to do everything else that comes along with the job. You step in there and there's the usual, your productivity, your efficiencies, and meeting all the metrics of quality and increasing the efficiency and managing the staff. All those things are a given, but we want to pay attention to what it is they want you to focus on, and then offer up some ideas of what you think you might have to be able to help accomplish that. And so the other question that I have, because I have multiple, is what's my relationship with the physician leader? What do we have for meetings? How do we collaborate? What's our collaborative relationship? Because I have found that communication is essential. I tend to really support the patients, be very patient focused and very staff focused, finding out what the staff needs. And I would say, like my current position, that my VP of patient care services, she was phenomenal at knowing exactly what the staff is needing and what they've been missing. And so she was able to point that out and said, here are the things. And so when we meet on a regular basis, and that's the other question is, how often will we meet so we can discuss what's going on and strategize and just create those action plans to help us get there so we can be more effective. Because sometimes, you're there for a very short time. Initially it's 13 weeks, but I will tell you that since 2015, my first assignment, I believe, was 6 months, and I wound up spending 13 months there. And then my next one was 6 months, and they knew specifically just allowing someone to get ready and prepared with education-wise for that role. So I was in and out for that one. Then my next one was 19. And the one before here was almost 3 years, just shy of 3 years. And so this one, my initial 13 weeks was through January, and now I've been extended to the next portion of it. So, having those discussions and meeting with the VP of Patient Care Services, what your relationship and building those relationships, and if you're effective in the role that you're in. And so that's why it's key. Do we have regular meetings where we can assess that? Here's what we're doing. Here's what my goals are. I've come in and I've assessed the situation. And so let's talk about that and how they can support me and what I need to help support the staff and the mission of perioperative services, because it's not just the operating room, it's all the other areas that are involved with that. So it's several questions that I ask, and I think just the collaborative relationships that we're going to have in meetings with the key stakeholders in leadership, physician, nurses, administrators, and then are we going to have regular one-on-one meetings where we could talk about those things that need to do, including am I on track? I need that feedback as well, just as we give others feedback. Is we need to have that feedback to say, am I missing it? Here's what I envision, but it's going off in a different direction than what you wanted to. So it's nothing worse than that. It's like Christmas time. Give me what I want, not what you think I need. So that's what I look to, and I ask those questions.
Yeah. So, for interims, sometimes you're walking into an environment that's kind of a powder keg, and you think you're stepping into something and kind of just like, whoa, that reaction, everybody's like on edge. So how do you like calm fears down? Like you don't know what happened before you got, maybe you do know what happened before you got there. How do
Mhm.
you make people calm and go like, I got this, I got you?
Yeah. Yeah. So what is interesting is each place is like that because you have your skeptics. Some are just eh, temporarily vacant, so it wasn't a long time. But then you have some that had long-term vacancies. And then you have those that have had a rapid succession of leadership turnover. And I'm in that situation now. So, I tell the staff all the time, I understand you have a lack of trust, you have a lack of, you know, um, believability that, someone is going to be here and that it's going to be a long lasting change. And so we have three interims here right now. Myself as the director, the manager, and the educator, very key roles to help the staff support them in what they need, which is education, competency, stability, and reliability on what goes on. So we, through our actions, no matter what we say, it's through our actions and our consistency and our fairness that we're going to earn their trust. So either we will or we won't. Okay, but they're skeptical right now because they've had just a rapid turnover, and they're afraid that interims come and then they're gone. Okay, and I would say that the three of us have been convincing them that you don't. We're not like other interims that you may know. We're dedicated. This is our focus while we're here, and that's what we have to show them is that we're committed to them, and however long that is. I just walked back here in my busy day, and I had charge nurse ask me, "Are you really leaving in June?" I said, "No." I said, "I've already had that discussion that I'm in here for the long haul, and as long as I'm effective, and we all feel that it's a symbiotic relationship where it's effective, then I will remain." Because I will tell you that if I don't feel I'm effective or the organization is going off in a different direction, and it's sometimes that's what it is they're pressured by outside variables, outside pressures to make a change that might not be what we feel is for the best patient safe care or for the staff. And so when an organization changes direction like that, then I may have to say, okay, I'm done. I'm done here. And then how that works is, you do the notice. But I can't say that, yeah, I've never left anything abruptly because that the question that you ask is when are we going to meet regularly and have that feedback, because that's where you have even if you're working permanently, as long as you have that alignment with the mission and vision of the leadership and the organization, you should do well in an organization.
So once people are calm, like what are some specific tips that you would give to your peers to gain confidence?
Availability. Make yourself, first of all, just make yourself available. That is so calming, and I've had them come and tell me that is make yourself available. um, they can talk to you about anything, and then make rounds. I have to carry my notepad with me, okay, and I write down notes because I can't remember everything that people tell me. And I said, those are some really good ideas. So let's look at how we can make that happen. And I do say we can make that happen, but that has had a very calming effect. And I've had someone come to me and say, well, I had some concerns and so told me that come talk to you because you take the time and you listen. And so just making yourself available and listening to what their concerns are and then circling back with the feedback. I'm not able to do anything about that right now, but I'll get back to you. So that's what they need. Listen, follow up, engagement. Okay. So, stop, never be too busy. And even unless it's an emergency, that's the only time I usually break away, not to get back to a meeting because my calendar is filled with nothing but meetings, top to bottom, start to finish. But just stop what we're doing and then pull them aside because you meet them where they are. And that really has the calming effect. But just be consistent, be available.
What challenges do you see repeatedly that impact revenue in perioperative departments?
A lack of sense of urgency. Okay. So getting in the room and getting the cases started, turning the rooms over. Most of us know about the bewitching hour if we're working 8-hour days, which is come change a shift. People start looking at the clock in the room. I'm not going to rush too much to turn this case over because then I'll have to set up before the next page comes. So, and surgeons will tell you that, and they say, I'm pulling my hair out. I can tell it's time for change of shift. The 12-hour shifts which they're doing here kind of slows that down a little bit. But that's what we're telling you is just have a sense of purpose and a sense of urgency because your turnover time is wasted time that we could be adding on additional services that can add access to care. So, most of the time we want to focus on what our turnover times are and then have the staff in our staff meetings. And that's the other thing is, do you have staff meetings? I've been some places it's once a month and most people will tell you once a month it's not enough. We have too much new equipment. We have too many processes that we need to work on. So we are able to do it weekly here. And so I always let them know, okay, we're going to strategize on how we can make a change on that. Here's what the data is, which is what I spend my time doing, collecting that data, putting it together, pretty graphs and charts form. And then we go over where we are, and then we talk about how we can make a change to get to where we need to be. And so, be having him as a part of that process, but turnover times, having a sense of purpose. I'm here, this is what I'm working towards, and I'm going to do it. It's achievable. Don't say it's not, but at least we're going to just move in that direction of improvement.
Mm-hmm. So you're starting your first day. What's your checklist for your very first day?
My checklist is to get out and see everybody, walk around, introduce myself to the surgeons, primarily to the staff. It was great here. I came in and started, and my VP came and introduced me to the group. And I think part of what you have to do, even though you think it might not be necessary, but do tell them about why you're qualified for that position. Tell them about your history. One of the things that usually is a stumbling block is policy. And I had them tell me, well, we have another interim coming in and they're going to change the policy and they're going to do things their way. And I said, you know what? The truth of the matter is when interims come in, we review the policy and then assess if we're actually following our policy. We're not creating any new policies. We're just making sure that we are practicing what is in our scope, because that's what accreditation does is they come in and see if we're following what we're saying we're supposed to do. So I'm not making any new policies. I'm not creating any policies. And because you don't have time to read those policies, we'll discuss those briefly at our morning huddles, our afternoon huddles, just so that you know what is there, So then we make that available to you, but we have clarification on if there's questions about the policy. But I'm not coming in to create any policies. However, I did work at AORN for 5 years writing recommended practices and guidelines, and manning the consultation line, speaking to people all over the world on the application of the policy, so I can understand where you're coming from. As not being in an ivory tower or anything else, I get to observe what's there. I've been a part of what the frontline staff in practice, and so I understand the challenges that you had. And all I need is for you to reach out to me if you have concerns about following the policy, or if you're asked to deviate from the policy. So, do come in and tell them, what your background is that makes you qualified to do this job, why you were selected to do this job. And that's another one of those calming, reassuring things too. But I think, introducing yourself and letting them know at the first opportunity, that in-depth conversation about that. It might not be the first day, but it'll be those other days. And then getting on calendars to meet key business partners. Okay, the anesthesiologist chair, the chair of surgery, our finance business partner, is finding out who all those people are and setting up meetings to be with them, and then finding out what our previous relationships were, and then seeing where we can collaborate. And then as we have our staff meetings, that's the other thing, is I want to hear the voice of the staff. So I want to make sure I have some time established so I can hear those things and assess those. Like I said, tablet in pocket and pen, jot those down as we're going along. So it is getting out, introducing myself, and then it begins on the first day. I want to see all of the people who report to me, and I'm going to know them by name on paper, and then I get to know them in person. So that starts on day one.
What you said about the policy was interesting. Do you go to places where they think they think the director is instituting a new policy, but it was just a policy that was already there?
Every place, every single place.
Wow.
I've had it referred to as your policy. This is not Sheila's policy. I didn't
That's
bring that in the door with
fascinating.
me. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool. Interesting. So what is some advice, or something you've learned during the pandemic that's changed the way you work or the way you lead?
I think the biggest surprise that I got is when we thought we were communicating, and we were leaving it through the leadership chain to push it down. They were so apprehensive that they didn't deliver the message that they should have. Okay. And I should have probably been more visible in that situation and walked around, and I have no problem doing the various shifts and the weekends to come in and have those discussions with people. But there were a lot of questions, and I thought my managers were asking and were answering the questions because we had the discussions. Because they were apprehensive, and we sat down first off before they went forward to the staff, and we had our discussions. I brought in whatever resources they need to, HR, to discuss the policies on paying and being out and being furloughed and different things like that. But there was just so much apprehension that we found, including the chief nursing officer, that the staff had been misinformed. Okay. And I think providing a forum on a regular basis during that time, we all learned that lesson, that we should have done that, a more structured way of them to bring questions forward. This place does a weekly town hall. And so something like that is just invaluable, and that's exactly what they needed. So when you have such a drastic change in operations that COVID brought on, that's what you have to do, is really just get out, be more, and make sure what are your apprehensions, and then answer those questions. And so that's what has to happen.
Yeah, it seems like hospitals were, but particularly perioperative, were kind of thrown into the deep end, just
Right.
and kind of
Right.
expected to learn how to swim when you kind of don't, because it's 20 feet of water. So
Right.
Yeah. Um, so some perioperative leaders may be hesitant to interim because they think it may look bad or their resume, jumping from place to place. What's your experience with how people perceive interims in general? You mentioned a little bit about how they think you just dip in and dip out. Maybe you don't care about us because you're just going to leave in 3 months. So kind of, well, what is the perception? And if there are any negative perceptions, like how do you break that?
Well, I think it's asking the question. What are your concerns? What are your feedback? I've implemented here because it was a great practice at the last place I was, with the managers doing the one-on-one rounding with their staff. So if you've got this huge number of staff, then once a quarter you're going to get everybody. So monthly you break it up and you have people sign up and you talk with them. But that's their uninterrupted one-on-one time that you get with them, and you find out what's going on. You find out what they need to be more supported, and you find out what their frustrations are. And I will tell you, not everybody is transparent. Not everybody is truthful. Not everybody in a one-on-one situation are willing to speak, bring forward what they are. But when you hear it, is to hear what they're asking and understand why they're asking, the questions that they may be asking, and then get to the root of that first, and then see what you can do. Because I've had some discussions with my VP since I've been here, and so I'll just take that step back and I say, let's see, what have I been communicating? How have I been communicating? Maybe that's not as effective as I need for this group of people. So, let's make that adjustment. And then back to your original question, I don't worry about my resume and it seeing an interim, because when you are received at an organization, either you fit in and you help them accomplish what you do. If they have the need, the biggest part is, do they feel in the interview that you'll be that fit to offer, to fit into what they're trying to accomplish right now. And I would say that I don't worry about that. I know there are people who there's a stigma attached to an interim. And as I said, all you can tell them is all you can do is show them by your actions that you're committed, and you're there. You don't just have me out the door. Because I tell them, I said, you're at morning huddle and you're physically here, but I can tell you're not here. So I'm present. Just be present. And it's not having those conversations where you may be offered a job somewhere else, because I will tell you, I'm dedicated. I'm always offered more jobs and they're interim. So there's a lot of places that they're challenged and they need it. So they understand the value of an interim, bridging the leadership into, because you can't just leave people who are totally unqualified to step up into a role. It's bad for both sides, because I've had people who had to do it as an interim from within an organization, but they never had the formal training, and then they don't have the support that they need to have. And so I understand, and many other places understand, the importance of an interim leader. And, I especially understand the importance of being collaborative and working those relationships and just helping support the organization get to where they want to do, and where they want to be. So I'm not nervous about seeing an interim on my resume, because this is the direction that I chose to go. And I don't think we have any problem finding positions from one to the next, because as you know, we are tapped on the shoulder while we're in assignments, or going to the next. And I would just tell them, because we're kind of like a free agent, but I tell them, I said, look, this is my initial contract. See ya. I don't want to hear from you until later. I'm not looking. Okay, this is my focus. And see, that's what people understand is, yeah, we are committed. So I don't want to hear what else is available, because I'm going to say no. Okay, because I'm here. And so for me, that if someone is then looking to permanently settle down, once you're in a position and you're at a location where, oh man, this is pretty nice, I like this here, they like me, I like them. I'm effective, same goals and objectives. I think I'll stay here. They'll just tell you to sign on the dotted line. When do you want to start? So, if you've proven yourself, there is no problem in having interim on your resume, because it's, again, your actions, it's in what you do that makes a difference.
Well, that concludes our interview. And Sheila, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us about what you do, the great work you do, and the great work your staff does. We, appreciate you. I'm sure your patients appreciate you. And I want you to have an incredible day.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
selecting me for this and making it happen.